All I need is one mic.
So please welcome to the stage Miss Marie Brown. Swing chase. 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes before the recess bell sounds. Aletha, Maybelle, Zoe putting on their game faces, tighten up their shoelaces. These three girls wanted the same swing every day. They did not want to share the swing. This ordeal became such a ritual. Classmates would bet their lunches and lunch money on who would win the swing chase for the day. Anthony and Mark started beating their top of their desks, building up the excitement for the swing chase. Anthony and Mark were always busy and always moving. They just couldn't sit still in their seats. So Mrs. Adams would sit the boys outside in the yard so they would not disturb the class. Mrs. Adams said it was her duty to channel and support their gift of energy. She wrote a proposal to the school board asking for funds to provide a music class room with musical instruments available to all students. She said it's important to allow music classes for those who were interested. However, like most great ideas, it seemed like her ideas would take forever to be accepted. But one day, Anthony and Mark broke their pencils they used as drumsticks. And so they began tapping and tapping and tapping on each other's heads, tapping on each other's back. Once their drumming was finished, they settled down and attended their lessons. They always scored the highest on their assignments. 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes before the recess bell sounds, and there was Aletha in the corner of the classroom stretching her legs and shaking her thighs, getting more hits than a watermelon and flies. She had curly hair with blue-green eyes, skin lighter than light, almost white. When people stared too long, she jokingly replies, "Mama had two lovers." She says she's gonna be a movie star, live in Hollywood and drive big cars. First, she's gotta move out of the wiggly courts, the toughest place to live and the easiest place to die. Aletha was the oldest of her 6 siblings. She would feed, dress, and walk them to school each morning. After school, she prepared their meals, helped them with their homework. Aletha's mother worked long hours at the corner store. Aletha could not participate in activities that her friends did because of her responsibilities at home. Aletha hated the smell, the sound, the sights of her neighborhood. She was convinced the sounds of gunshots and the smell of dead bodies and the dump sites that found themselves a resting place outside her front doorstep would never be a part of her future. Aletha swore she would never marry nor have children. She dreamed of Hollywood and pursuing her career of singing and dancing and acting. Swing chase was the highlight of her day. It was her imaginary race to Hollywood. 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes before the recess bell sounds, and Maybelle is turning flips in class, showing off her ass, holding in her underwear. She don't really care, squeezing her own breast, talking more noise to Anthony and Mark. Bet you can't beat on this. Maybelle was raised by her grandmother, frequently had sex with her own brother. Sad but true. She thinks it's something that every family do. We all know her mama named her Mabel, but no one dare called her Mabel unless she wanted to fight her. Her hair was long, black, thick, and nappy strong. Her hair was so beautiful it gave the wind direction, which her body was muscular but not masculine. Maybelle walked with a limp. No one dare ask why she walked with a limp. Maybelle never openly accepted her physically challenged. She didn't want any special treatment. A lot of times she would joke about it. Swing chase was her time to shine and show the world even a girl with a limp could win a foot race. 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes before the recess bell sounds. Zoe was skinny, unpopular, and quiet. She had one friend named Joe. We all knew her mama named her Josephine. Zoe's hair was hard to describe. It was just one pile of sandy stuff on her head. It was too straight for an afro and too nappy for any other kind of hairstyle. Zoe put on tons and tons and tons of barrettes on her braids. So when she shook her head, her hair would move. It was just the barrettes. Zoe was underdeveloped. Her female classmates would always talk about their menses and developing bodies, and Zoe listened and never had anything to share. She wore shorts, layers of shorts, under her pants to give her the hips she never did have. She put socks in her bras to give her the breasts she did not have. Zoe did not begin walking until she was 3 and speaking until she was 5. She would sit at home and rock for hours and hours. She was a rocker. She rocked for hours and hours. When it was time to sleep, she rocked herself to sleep. Her parents and teachers were concerned about her. So every Wednesday, the psychiatrist came to the school and talked to Zoe for an hour. One day, Zoe wrote a poem entitled, "Whom Am I?" After the poem, she shared it with her parents and her teachers and her psychiatrist. The next day, the meetings with the psychiatrist were terminated. Swing chase was Zoe's time to prove to everyone, she may not look, speak, think, and act like most people, but she's here. The recess bell sounded and Anthony and Mark were stomping their feet on the ground. The crowd was cheering. Half were cheering for Aletha and half were cheering for Mabel. Jo was cheering extra loud for her friend Zoe. The first obstacle was the steps. Aletha and Zoe flew from the top step to the bottom step like birds with a double set of wings. Mabel screamed out, "Y'all know I can't jump with a limp." Zoe and Aletha yelled back, "If you can run with the limp, you can jump with the limp." The next obstacle was the boys' water fountain, around or over, around or over. Zoe jumped over and cut her knee on the metal faucet. Her knee began to bleed. Aletha went around the water fountains and Mabel jumped over them, looked back and laughed and said, "Aletha, how you like me now?" Aletha ignored Mabel and held her head high and ran towards the tree branch stretched across the sidewalk. She jumped on the tree branch, skipped onto the monkey bars in one big leap. The crowd cheered and excitement. The monkey bars were 6 feet high and 6 feet across. If anyone were to fall off the monkey bars, they would land in a puddle of mud. Aletha was halfway across the monkey bars when she lost her grip. Zoe and Mabel were right behind her. Zoe grabbed Aletha's hand and Mabel grabbed Zoe's tiny body, which swayed out of control while trying to catch Aletha's hand. Zoe placed Aletha's hand back onto the monkey bar along with her own. Mabel let go of Zoe as if she regained her balance. The crowd went wild, cheering while Mark and Anthony stomping the ground, which now looked like a small dirt tornado, had just hit the playground. Aletha, Mabel, and Zoe continues to run ahead to the last obstacle, the hill. Aletha stepped on an ant bed. Anthony quickly grabs the water hose from the janitor's shed and pours water on Aletha. As usual, Anthony gets carried away and goes overboard with the water hose and says, "You sure look good wet, Aletha." Aletha quickly snatches the water hose from Anthony and continues to race up the hill. Zoe is so far ahead at this point, Mabel nor Aletha can see her. Zoe wiggles her tiny body to the warm, cool leather seat. Zoe leans back, takes a deep breath, and kicks the dirt beneath her feet as if she owned it. Mabel and Aletha lay exhausted on the top of the hill watching Zoe swing. The classmates began to hang over their lunches and lunch money to Jo. The bell rings. Recess is over. Zoe jumps from the swing in motion, her tons of barrettes falling everywhere. She claps and cheers herself while Joe runs up to hug her and share the money and the lunches. Later on in the classroom, Aletha leans over towards Zoe and asks her, "How's your knee?" Zoe says, "I'm fine, and how are you?" Aletha says, "Good. I want to make sure when I beat you next recess you are not injured." Both girls laughed. Maybelle hollers across the room, "Hey, don't count me out. After all, if it were not for me, both of you would have landed in the mud today." All three girls laughed and hung at each other. Swing chase.